cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the Generation Gap podcast. I'm Taimur Mir, that's Daniel Ahmed, and this episode is brought to you by Ravi Shastri's Tracer Bullets. The episode
Back
with
again with the
back
sponsor.
again, back again with the sponsor. We will be this particular episode. I think we will be discussing the IPL, but the topic of discussion is more specifically the kind of impact that the IPL had or had on the international Indian cricket team, and the kind of problems that I think even a lot of Indian fans have had with it, because a lot of people feel that the kind of success that the Indian team should have had post IPL has really not happened. And every time you see this kind of pattern emerging as well, that India fails in a T20 tournament, so immediately fingers are raised towards IPL for different reasons. I think हमारे discussion उसमें होगा क्या क्या reasons उसमें हैं and the kind of take that we have on it as well, right? So looking into the topic, जो चीज मुझे interesting लगी थी कि people most of the opinions tend to be more in terms of के a lot of like commentators and a lot of fans were saying KG the IPL is a problem because players are paying too much attention towards the IPL. Their main focus is the IPL. Their focus is not the international team. जिसकी वजह से people are they're not performing the way that they should, right? I think we discussed this yesterday as well. I think were not really sold on that particular idea, right?
I mean, I think we've discussed this plenty of times even before we came up with the idea of this video. You mentioned how in like the Premier League and like in football, right? That's a common point that is raised a lot. When in reality, a lot of I think जो hot topic है जिसकी वजह से ये point ज़्यादा raise हो रहा है Bumrah's injury, right? Because the idea is that Bumrah skipped like the World Cup, then he skipped like the Australian series, and I don't know if he's playing the IPL. I think he's still injured, far as I know. But before the IPL, the idea was कि उसने I think गलती से बोल दिया कि मैं तो IPL हर हाल में खेलूंगा. So all the fans just jumped on him. They were like, he's after the money and all that. And I think in reality, what happened was his injury was more incidental, right? So like it happened to coincide with a lot of like major tournaments, and it happened to end at IPL. I don't think that really proves anything. I don't think if you like quantify the number of major Indian players that have gotten injured and then conveniently gotten like well by the time IPL rolled around, I don't think the list is that high, right? So again, it's more like conspiracy, and I think it's the very nationalistic sentiments within the Indian public about, I guess, nation over profits kind of mentality, right? Which again, like you could argue over how like the game is becoming very commercialized, but regardless of that, I still feel like
this is not
like that's not
the carry package
argument.
क्योंकि जहाँ पे आप अपनी टीम को छोड़ के जो है आप एक टूर्नामेंट खेल रहे हैं, it's not exactly the same thing. This is a different situation. जहाँ पे when you're on your time off from international cricket तो तब आप IPL खेल रहे हैं. It's kind of that situation. So I mean जो वही मैं कहता था, the main point that people seem to be raising was कि either players का focus नहीं है international cricket पे, और दूसरा ये कि they're getting injured playing IPL, which now is like around 2 months. कि 2 महीने वो चलता रहता है. That might be more of a valid discussion कि आप कह सकते हैं कि हाँ players यहाँ पे खेल रहे हैं, they get injured, but I think overall that's a discussion कि जहाँ पे हम ये बात कर रहे हैं कि players are getting injured more because there's so much more international cricket. It's not just the IPL. आपका international cricket overall ज़्यादा है because back in the day आपके पास 2 formats हुआ करते थे maximum जो कि now you're playing 3 formats and you're playing them year round and you have league cricket on top of that. तो उस तरह से जो है वो मसला तो है, बट आई मीन उसमें ये चीज कंसीडर करें, एंड इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग कि इंडियन प्लेयर्स आर ओनली प्लेइंग इन द आईपीएल. यू डोंट रियली सी इंडियन प्लेयर्स आउटसाइड ऑफ द आईपीएल. बाकी टीमों के बहुत से प्लेयर्स हैं, मतलब पीएसएल भी खेल रहे होंगे, आईपीएल भी खेल रहे होंगे, वो जाके शायद बिग बैश में भी खेलते हों. तो यू सी अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेयर्स हु आर प्लेइंग लाइक एटलीस्ट 4 or 5 लीग्स अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. वो इंजर नहीं हो रहे and they're playing for the international teams as well. So I mean उस तरह से कहना कि those players are somehow less at risk at getting injured than the Indian players who are just playing one league throughout the year, I don't think that's a very solid argument either. अगर उस तरह से आपकी बात की जाए. एंड वो बात है दूसरी जो हमने की थी वो तो ऑलरेडी वी कैन डिसमिस दैट बिकॉज उसमें हाइपर नेशनलिज्म वाली ये उसमें चीज आती है. बट देयर इज अ जेन्युइन पॉइंट जो मैं कह रहा था कि आई वाज लुकिंग एट कमेंट्स जो के वसीम अकरम ने किए थे एंड ही रेज्ड दिस पॉइंट कि यार 2007 में द इंडियन टीम विंस द वर्ल्ड कप व्हिच काइंड ऑफ precipitates in the creation of the IPL. और IPL क्रिएट होती है और उसके बाद से इंडिया हैज नॉट वन अ T20 टूर्नामेंट सिंस देन. At least the World T20 World Cup they've not been won since then, right? So that's
Yeah.
an interesting point. I mean वही बात है कि there are a lot of things we can say and of course Indian team को birthright नहीं है कि वो World Cup जीतें, because they have the IPL, but I think it's an interesting point कि why they have not succeeded. So I mean that's the discussion that we were having कि क्या उसके पीछे वजूहात हैं. And I think one of the things that sorry.
Before we move on, I do want to clear another aspect of the myth that like people value like क्या कहते हैं IPL and league cricket more than like international cricket, and this has come to a point where many pundits and many high profile pundits like Jared Kimber are even talking about how league cricket is slowly replacing international cricket. I think what we're not noticing is that international cricket is still very necessary in terms of validation of your profile, right? Like you cannot compete in a Premier League or you cannot continue to have a high value attached to you in particular Premier Leagues if you do not play very good at international like cricket. Like examples like Tim May or either players हैं जो नीचे से आए Premier League खेल के international खेली जिन्होंने, these are very rare examples. Mostly होता ये है कि you do well in international cricket and then you get selected in the IPL. And if you stop doing well in international cricket, you stop getting selected in the IPL. उसकी example you can see like in West Indies cricket, right? So West Indies cricket, they I think you can safe to say they took full advantage of the IPL, right? But the moment जो current crop जो T20 crop था, Chris Gale, DJ Bravo and like Darren Sammy, the moment all of them retired, you also stop seeing quality players or any player of noteworthiness in like the IPL or in any Premier League. So again, your international acumen does matter. You cannot like act like क्या कहते हैं international cricket is dying. Even the players that are quitting international cricket and joining IPL permanently or Premier League permanently, they are people that have a already established international legacy. Like at this point, Trent Bolt does not have to do much anymore to prove himself, right?
Exactly.
AB de Villiers didn't have much to do. So like again, that is something that I feel like gets overblown. कि like international cricket थोड़ी replace हो रही है उस sense में, because if you look at the hard facts, international cricket is very necessary because more eyes are on international cricket than they are on IPL at the end of the day.
I think
basic level.
This is a larger discussion to be had as well. I think I was thinking maybe coming toward the end of the podcast, but चलिए अभी हमने since you brought it up, that we can discuss it right now. I think उसमें जो point Jared Kimber का था, he was mentioning कि players will start taking retirement a lot earlier. I think उसमें ये चीज़ है कि yes, players will still play international cricket, but they won't play it for as long as they used to do. I think एक तो ये चीज़ है क्योंकि obviously जहाँ पे पहले ये होता था players would keep extending their international career just to keep getting a paycheck. अब उनके लिए it makes more sense कि ठीक है जी, you have a decent international record, आपने अपने आप को establish कर लिया है, just retire. Like you don't have to keep playing till 8 years of age. You can just play till like 32 and then play the rest of your career. उसके बाद 6 साल आप leagues में खेल लें. It will be much easier on your body. For one thing, आप उतने ज़्यादा injuries आपको नहीं होंगी, and you can still make the same amount of money or more, just playing, going around and playing leagues. I think that's the point he was trying to make. अब उसमें retirements ज़्यादा जल्दी होंगी, and players will start retiring from formats as well. कि बहुत सारे ये होगा कि players will not, keep playing in all 3 formats, even if they can be picked for them. They will probably choose one format and stick to it. ये भी एक चीज़ थी. एक और interesting point उसने raise किया था, I think in a previous discussion, I think उसका podcast था. I think it was some Pakistani किसी podcast पे आया था, and he was discussing this very interesting point where you will start seeing like more specialist players, in the sense कि not just कि एक particular format के हिसाब से like ODI specialists and T20 specialists, but even specialists in terms of कि T20 में भी एक particular role के हिसाब से, like you will start seeing people who are just people who are like Asif Ali, who are like very specifically made for like a very narrow niche. कि जी वो बंदे ने आना है आखिरी 4 ओवर के अंदर आके उसने छक्के मारने हैं, उसकी ये नीश है, which only works in T20 and only for a very limited format, but they are specialists in that. And then you'll have other bowlers who are like death specialists, जिनका काम सिर्फ जिस तरह से किसी में डैरन ब्रावो हुआ करता था, like he was a death specialist in T20 specifically, he was excellent at that. तो उस तरह के आपको और बंदे भी मिलेंगे who have like a very specific niche which works in T20, और उस तरह से स्पेशलाइजेशन उनकी होगी कि वो उसी फॉर्मेट में वो अपने एक नैरो कर लेंगे स्किल्स, बिकॉज दैट वे दे कैन प्ले फॉर अ लॉट लॉन्गर, एंड बिकॉज दे आर स्पेशलिस्ट इन अ पर्टिकुलर नीश दे विल बी मच मोर लाइकली टू बी पिक्ड अप बाय टीम्स, कि ठीक है यार इस फॉर्मेट के लिए हमें ये बंदा चाहिए, यू नो जस्ट पिक दिस गाय एंड लेट्स यूज हिम इन दिस फॉर्मेट एंड दिस फॉर्मेट, उस तरह से वो उसे कर लिया जाएगा. सो वो चीज़ एक अपनी जगह पे है. आई डू थिंक कि फ्यूचर में यू विल सी यू नो प्लेयर्स going and retiring earlier, and but ये नहीं होगा कि आप वो खेलेंगे नहीं, they will play international cricket, but international cricket will be a way to break into leagues in the same way जो कि आजकल आपकी international cricket sorry फुटबॉल के अंदर भी है, क्योंकि obviously अभी भी requirement है आपकी for example Premier League की कि a player needs to have played international cricket for international football for their national side for at least I think 2 years or something, कुछ तरह की होती है for foreign players कि जी उन्होंने कम से कम 2 साल मेरा ख्याल है if I'm not wrong खेली हो, and they must have you know played इतने उन्होंने मे बी मैचेस खेले हों या इस तरह कोई उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट है. सो उसमें भी इवन प्रीमियर लीग में जाने के लिए इंटरनेशनल प्लेयर्स को एक पर्टिकुलर नंबर ऑफ इंटरनेशनल इंटरनेशनल फुटबॉल जो है वो खेलनी पड़ती है इन ऑर्डर टू ब्रेक इनटू द प्रीमियर लीग. तो उसी तरह से मुझे ये लगता है कि यहाँ पे भी उस तरह का ही सीन होगा कि वहां तो चले उन्होंने फॉर्मलाइज किया हुआ रूल्स को. आई डोंट नो कि क्रिकेट के अंदर उस तरह से फॉर्मलाइज रूल्स हैं कि नहीं है, लेकिन यहाँ पे इनफॉर्मल लेवल पे तो एटलीस्ट होगा कि जहाँ प्लेयर्स को अपने नेशनल लेवल पे जाकर अपने आप को प्रूव करना पड़ेगा. वंस दे प्रूवन देमसेल्व्स दे कैन गो अराउंड यू नो एंड प्ले इन अदर लीग्स एज वेल, जहाँ पे फिर उनके लिए अगर वंस दे गेट इनटू दोस तो इस उनके लिए आसान हो जाएगा कि यस देन दे कैन रिटायर एट द एज ऑफ मे बी 28 और 30 एंड देन जस्ट यू नो प्ले द रेस्ट ऑफ देयर करियर आउट इन दोस लीग्स. जिस तरह से बहुत से प्लेयर्स करते हैं इन इंटरनेशनल फुटबॉल एज वेल कि इंटरनेशनल फुटबॉल से वो ज्यादा रिटायरमेंट ले लेंगे अर्ली एंड दे कीप प्लेइंग फॉर अदर 6-7 years इन लीग्स आफ्टर दैट, मे बी इवन 10 years at time. तो मुझे लगता है कि दैट रियलिटी इज प्रोबब्ली गोइंग टू हैपन और होगा सही, बिकॉज आई डू think that is where the cricket world is heading. I don't think internationally cricket को बिल्कुल खत्म कर दिया जाएगा, लेकिन आई डू फील लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ लाइक मे बी लाइक दीज लो टीयर किस्म के जो आपके टूर्नामेंट्स होते हैं या मैचेस होते हैं या इवन बहुत से बायलैटरल सीरीज विल प्रोबेबली गेट श्रंक, क्योंकि सिर्फ और सिर्फ आईपीएल नहीं होने वाला. आईपीएल विल बी दैट काइंड ऑफ द एट द फोरफ्रंट, बट देयर आर अदर लीग्स एज वेल, वो भी पुश करेंगे, पीएसएल भी पुश करेगी, बिग बैश भी पुश करेगा. दे विल आस्क फॉर मोर टाइम.
मार्केट इतनी बड़ी है, लाइक पीएसएल की मार्केट इतनी बड़ी है कि लाइक दे हैव मेजर पोटेंशियल टू बी लाइक a strong number second, if not equally like number one. I mean, they're not right now, but I think eventually, considering कि हमारी, I think, हाँ,
एक चीज बताऊं जो इनको फायदा है, which I was noticing yesterday, because IPL because they are so concerned about their rights and their footage, वो अपनी से वेबसाइट पे दिखाते हैं, right? अब उस पे they are only showing
yeah,
their footage on the IPL website. They are not showing it on YouTube, if I'm not wrong, right? YouTube पे वो नहीं दिखा रहे,
yeah.
वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपनी वेबसाइट पे दिखा रहे हैं. But PSL is actually showing it on YouTube. So PSL is actually far more accessible to people at this point. IPL is not. I think that's a sort of a thing that's a bit of a disadvantage for them. क्योंकि मसला ये है कि उनकी अपनी एक internal audience इतनी बड़ी है कि it doesn't make a difference for them. But there are not that many people watching it internationally because I think probably PSL is getting more like it's getting like a broader scope of viewers compared to say the IPL, because IPL is like very stingy in terms of कि कौन लोग उसको देख सकते हैं और वो बड़ा उसके बारे में protective भी हैं. अगर they would just put it on YouTube, a lot more people would actually see their content. But because they're so overly protective, कोई उसको देख ही नहीं पा रहा. ये भी एक मसला है. Lack of access एक बहुत बड़ा मसला है. I think that's an issue as well. अगर मैं देख रहा था कि ये जो रिंकू सिंह वाला फॉर एग्जांपल जो मैंने बात की थी, तो रिंकू सिंह वाला वीडियो आई रिमेंबर एट द टाइम, अब शायद मे भी थोड़ा से पहले आई थी, उस वक्त उस पर 1,80,000 व्यूज थे या 2 लाख व्यूज थे ऑन देयर वेबसाइट. एंड आई थिंक मोस्ट यू नो पीएसएल जो कि हाईलाइट वीडियोस गेट ओवर 1 million व्यूज, 2 million व्यूज, 3 million व्यूज, इस तरह से आपका होता है डिपेंडिंग ऑन दैट. सो वो बात है कि इन टर्म्स ऑफ आई बॉल्स यू गेटिंग अ लॉट मोर. शायद पैसे वो उससे नहीं कमा रहे, obviously they're not making as much money, but it's less accessible, so that might be a disadvantage for them in the long run perhaps. But again point ये है कि यहाँ पे आपकी जो जितनी लीग्स हैं IPL, PSL, Big Bash, 100 whatever, वो सारे जो हैं वो अपने जो है they will start actually pushing the international cricket as well. और वो कहेंगे ठीक है यार हमारे लिए ये सीरीज इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, we don't need to play this, we don't need to play this. इस दौरान जो है वो you know just make the league a bit bigger. Okay, I think IPL started with like a month-long tournament and now it's 2 months long in like the last 10 years or so. तो इस तरह से होगा. बाकी लीग्स भी ज्यादा स्पेस मांगेगी अपने लिए कि हमें और टाइम दे, विल प्ले मोर मैचेस. यू नो, और अगर हमने ज़्यादा मैचेस खेलने हैं तो सो मे बी शायद ये सीरीज निकाल दें, ये हटा दें, ये हटा दें, ये हटा दें. यू स्टिल हैव द मेजर टूर्नामेंट्स, ऑब्वियसली वर्ल्ड कप्स तो होंगे, यू नो, एशिया कप्स भी होंगे, इस तरह की चीज़ें चलती रहेंगी. लेकिन आई थिंक जो आपके छोटे मोटे टूर्नामेंट्स हैं, बायलैटरल सीरीज हैं, वो थोड़ी सी आई थिंक साइडलाइन होना शुरू हो जाएंगे आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. That is definitely going to happen. I foresee that in the future. लेकिन चलिए let's come to like our main thesis, जो हमारा main idea इसमें था कि क्यों हमें लगता है कि जितना ज़्यादा मसला हो रहा है since the IPL started. और I think उसमें the kind of thing that kind of started me on this path was कि जब मैंने देखा कि इस साल धोनी कितने में बिका, जब धोनी के कितना रेट लगा था, 12 करोड़ रुपए लगा था, 12 करोड़ इंडियन रुपीस. तो वो जब मैंने देखा मैं हैरान हूँ, मैं कि पहले फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कि धोनी खेल रहा है. शायद मुझे इस बात की हैरत हुई because I don't really follow the IPL all that
I think
much.
he's 42 right now.
He's 42. हाँ,
Yeah.
चलें, ये भी. तो he's 42. वो 12 करोड़ के लिए उसको उन्होंने बेचा है. I couldn't believe my eyes. मैंने कहा यार, मतलब is this मतलब मैंने कहा शायद maybe यार रेट का मुझे मसला हो रहा है. Maybe this is cheaper by IPL standards. I don't know. Then I went and checked, but no, this is not cheaper either. He's like right up there. मतलब उससे भी expensive players हैं. The people going for like 16 crore or something. But 12 crore is quite expensive.
Oh,
And this is a guy
by the way,
only played.
interesting thing. Jitna I checked it up, and I again my memory might fail me because I saw it in a YouTube short. KL Rahul is more expensive than Virat Kohli in IPL.
What?
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to verify.
आपके इतने ज़्यादा प्लेयर्स जो हैं वो मौजूद हैं टीम के अंदर, जो कि मतलब who really don't just need to be there. आपकी अगर कंपैरिजन में देखा जाए in BSL, a lot of players who were kind of getting even on a bit, उनको फॉरेन टीम से निकाल दिया गया था, या they weren't really, a lot of them were not really allowed to kind of use the PSL as a retirement home. Although I'm sure इक्का दुक्का आपको उस तरह के मिल ही जाएंगे examples, but it wasn't really a case कि ठीक है यार, ये बंदा बड़ा player है तो उसको हम इतने अरसे जो है वो खिलाते रहते हैं. You're seeing it a lot more in the IPL, जिसकी मतलब ये है कि because of that, because you have those like older players playing for a while, एक तरफ चले आप कह सकते हैं कि ठीक है यार, they have this knowledge that they can pass on to the younger generation, but at the same time that means कि there are younger players who are not getting the chance, जिसकी वजह से I think that is kind of a detriment to the national side as well, because जब talent को grow करने का मौका उस तरह से नहीं मिलेगा, and तो उस वजह से you won't get as many good players coming forward. That was definitely one thing on our mind. And I think the second that you were mentioning was something to do with team composition as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the team composition, it's very different than what the PSL composition is. Because at least PSL, you could safe to say, like, especially in a team like Multan, right? So 70% of the team is an emerging player. So like the vast majority are players that are young, and फिर उसमें senior player 2-3 आ गए, and then बाकी foreign players आ गए. But the majority are, like, you can say they're like emerging players. But if you look at the average team composition, I know that it's been different this season particularly, but generally, जो like होता ही है कि 4 foreign players होते हैं, and these foreign players are so expensive that there's almost a pressure that you need to play them in every match, right? So they take up like 4 spaces in a team. Then you have 4 to 5 players that are basically your high-profile players, and these are players that have either played international cricket before, or they are continuing to play international cricket even right now. So, and then 2-3 ही होंगे जो कि आप emerging player होंगे. And then उसमें यही आया था कि like people like, I mean, Robin Uthappa, someone who had basically no international profile, but just had the idea that he's an international player under his belt, right? He had a place in an IPL team for years. He was like opening for Chennai for a while.
Ganguly बहुत अच्छा खेल रहा था, राहुल द्रविड़ खेल रहा था for the longest time.
Rahul Dravid, and then Yuvraj Singh. Again, Yuvraj Singh plays a very old style of T20 cricket at the end of the day. Like, I mean, I know he has 6 sixes under his belt and all that, but his style of playing, I mean, like if you remember, like वो जो क्या कहते हैं मोहाली की innings थी विराट कोहली की, right? That particular match against Australia, which he like won it almost at the brink of like loss, right? What a lot of people don't remember about that game is कि उसकी विराट कोहली की पार्टनरशिप चल रही थी विद युवराज सिंह, एंड जो मैच इतना क्लोज आ गया था या इतना लाइक करीब आ गए थे हारने की वजह से, a lot of that has to do with Yuvraj Singh की very defensive cricket, And so again, my point is that these are players that are just there because they're part of the mythos of Indian cricket, basically.
हाँ,
So जो
and
90s cricket,
certainly in T20 cricket, I think which is a good decent point that you've raised कि T20 में because cricket changes so quickly और उसमें जो आपके ओवरऑल एक टैक्टिक्स इतनी जल्दी बदल जाते हैं, आई थिंक उसकी वजह से वो ये कि वो प्लेयर्स हु वर एक्चुअली व्हेन दे स्टार्टेड प्लेइंग दे वर वेरी करंट एंड दे माइट हैव इवन बीन ग्राउंड ब्रेकिंग प्लेयर्स, लेकिन 10 years डाउन द लाइन वही सेम टैक्टिक्स अब काम नहीं करते. You need different type of game. You need to different kinds of players to effectively play T20 cricket now. वही बात है जिस तरह से फॉर एग्जांपल ये जो एंकर वाला आइडिया है, एंड पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट स्टिल गेट्स दैट रॉन्ग कि जी आपने एंकर्स के साथ खेलना है. दैट एंटायर आइडिया हैज बीन डिबंक्ड बाय बोथ श्रीलंका प्लेइंग इन द एशिया कप एंड बोथ बाय द इंग्लैंड टीम इन द वर्ल्ड कप, both of whom actually won that tournament. तो उसमें तो ये था, उन्होंने कहा कि the basic idea is कि T20 के अंदर you have so few overs कि even if everyone keeps hitting from start to the finish, आप फिर भी effectively easily 10 runs and over to 12 runs and over बना सकते हैं. और by the time you get to the 20 overs के end तक आप पहुंचे, अगर आपने विकेट लूज भी की हैं तो you still probably have like 1 or 2 left, right? So you can just keep hitting up. You just have a deep batting lineup और आप शुरू से लेके आखिर तक बस हिटिंग करते रहे. Don't slow down at any point during the match. So I mean वही बात है कि वो tactics नहीं exist करते थे आज से 10 साल पहले. So if someone is playing like that, that's fine. I mean वही बात है कि उन्होंने उस को सीखा था, लेकिन आपकी जो current trends of cricket है वो उनसे आप बिल्कुल different खेल रहे हैं, and that's the kind of thing is not really going to work. And if that's what you're teaching like the younger generation, कि आप कहते हैं जी मेरा ये wisdom है और ये मैंने सीखा हुआ है, तो you're actually kind of misleading them at this point. तो वो भी एक मसला है कि आप उस तरह के प्लेयर्स को अगर रिटेन करेंगे इनके अंदर तो दैट माइट आल्सो अफेक्ट द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द यंगर प्लेयर्स बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. तो आई थिंक उसके अलावा जो हमारे माइंड में चल रहा था तो अपने और ने ये कहा कि देयर आर प्लेयर्स जो कि वे पास द प्राइम, बट देयर आल्सो हमने जिक्र किया था कि प्लेयर्स हु जस्ट प्लेड वन गुड टूर्नामेंट एंड देन सडनली दे आर हाइप्ड अप टू द मून, और सडनली उनको आप जो है हाँ सुरेश रैना बेबी सुरेश रैना किस तरह
मिस्टर आईपीएल.
अच्छा हाँ चले वो तो एक और बात है. सुरेश रैना फिर भी काफी लंबा अर्सा आईपीएल खेल गया. अभी जो हम बात कर रहे थे ना कि मतलब एक बंदा चला, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल अभी कौन था हाईएस्ट जो प्लेयर था सबसे एक्सपेंसिव प्लेयर जो था करंट में, सैम बिलिंग्स आई थिंक सैम करन था. तो सैम करन ने बस सिर्फ वर्ल्ड कप अच्छा खेला है, उसके अलावा उसने कुछ भी नहीं किया. देन सडनली ही इज मोर एक्सपेंसिव देन विराट कोहली. And in fact, like you mentioned, like there were 10 other players who were more expensive than Virat Kohli, including KL Rahul. So, which was hilarious.
And Cameron Green.
तो वही मैं कह रहा हूँ कि आपके प्लेयर्स जिन्होंने एक एक टूर्नामेंट अच्छा खेला हुआ है उनको आप लेके आ गए. हाइप इज टू बिग अ फैक्टर. आई थिंक एक ये बड़ा मसला है कि आपको मतलब आईपीएल जस्ट बाइज टू मच इनटू इट. ठीक है यार, ये बंदा बड़ा हो गया है, इसने सिर्फ एक अच्छा टूर्नामेंट खेला, वी नीड टू ब्रिंग हिम इन इमीडिएटली. और उस वजह से बहुत से प्लेयर्स को आप लेके आ जाते हैं who might not have that sustained level of success in them, or they might not even be that good in the first place. तो वही बात है कि आप उसमें इस तरह के जब प्लेयर्स को आप लाएंगे, again that's going to affect the quality of the tournament, that's going to affect the overall kind of players that you will produce from the IPL, and of course that's going to affect international cricket as well in the long run. And of course जो हम thirdly mention कर रहे थे which was कि आपके बहुत से ऐसे players हैं which are brought into the IPL for their name only, like उनका नाम बड़ा है, उनका brand बड़ा है, but they are players who performed in other formats, like अच्छे ODI players होंगे, maybe अच्छे test players होंगे, but आप क्योंकि वो मतलब well known players हैं, everyone knows their name, तो उस वजह से आप उनको अपनी टीम के अंदर रख लेंगे, which is a big problem as well, क्योंकि उसकी वजह से फिर आपके again those players are not really suited for that particular format, और उसमें आपकी overall जो एक teams का standard है that's again going to go down, and you're not going to get tournament that's as competitive as it could have been. So I think वो वाला मसला भी था. जैसे for example अभी हम बेन स्टोक्स की बात कर रहे थे. Yes, Ben Stokes won England the World Cup, but he had to play, and he's a good ODI player. And he played an ODI-style innings in the final to win, because he needed to do that. वहाँ पे उसको ज़रूरत थी ऐसी innings की इंग्लैंड को by chance, because throughout the tournament he was not performing at all. मैं नजर आया था कि अच्छा परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहा, and the only time जहाँ पे उसे एक ODI-style innings खेल सकता था उसने खेली और मैच जिता दिया उनको. But again, he is not really a good T20 player. बावजूद उसके कि at one point he was the most expensive player in the IPL as well. I think बिल्कुल early days में जब वो आया था यहाँ पे he was then the most expensive player. नाम भी उसका बड़ा है, उसने बहुत से ODI World Cups जिताए इंग्लैंड को, and he's done well in the test team. But again, he's a good test and ODI player. He's not a great T20 player. Doesn't really justify that, right? तो वो मतलब आपको sort of एक across the board एक problem आपको नजर आता है कि people buy too much into hype, बड़ा नाम ले लिया आपने, player उसका perform नहीं करता, so वो वाली चीज एक genuine एक issue है, which continues to kind of sort of bog them down, I feel. But बात ये है कि इन issues की वजह से I think people will certainly point and say कि अच्छा ठीक है फिर आप मतलब PSL ने कौन से इतना जो है वो तीर मार ली इस मामले में. If we are saying this is not like a PSL versus IPL वाला, because that's like the example that we understand the best, so we उसको mention कर रहे हैं, there are other leagues as well. तो उसमें ऑफ कोर्स लेकिन सबसे पहले तो सवाल ये उठाया जाएगा कि PSL जो है वो उसमें ऐसा क्या उन्होंने तीर मार लिया, ऐसी बात मार लिया. लेकिन again you have to kind of compare कि the Pakistan team has done well for its level of expectations. हाँ मतलब हम जो
We're
है
finalists as well,
हाँ, we were finalists, yes, we were favorites
as opposed to semi-finalists.
as opposed to semi-finalists. लेकिन हाँ, we were favorites in the World Cup. Before that, we had like a very long streak as well, unbeaten streak as well in T20s. We've been the most successful team. We've had the two best batsmen for a while now. And PSL में लेकिन वही था कि बावजूद उसके कि हमारे से कोई expectation पाकिस्तान उस level की नहीं है कि people are not really expecting Pakistan to win all that often. But we've consistently done well. And considering our resources and the fact that Pakistan इतना लंबा सा ban भी रहा और international teams visit नहीं कर रही थी and all those problems, and we don't have the kind of money and the kind of resources that the BCCI has. So let's be very honest, despite the fact कि चले आप कह सकते हैं कि हाँ the PSL की टीम ने भी कोई टूर्नामेंट नहीं जीता for sure, लेकिन at the same time हमसे कुछ तरह की expectation भी नहीं है, and the kind of talent that Pakistan team has managed to produce, especially in the bowling department. खास तौर पे we've been very stacked for a while now, तो मतलब almost हम 10 bowlers की टीम भी बनाना चाहें तो बना सकते हैं, given the kind of situation that we have right now. We have far fewer batsmen, लेकिन I think उसमें
Can I also point out कि like चले हमने टूर्नामेंट नहीं जीते हैं, but we have been going toe to toe against a very wealthy team for a while now in T20s, which is India, right? So like BCCI is investing so much money into IPL and like T20 cricket in general, and here comes Pakistan with much lower capital than India, clearly, who are still going toe to toe with them, and consistently India has been having a hard time beating us. Every single time they have to pull a rabbit out of a hat to beat us. And so that I feel like that does give us a higher ground than them in terms of like how
but tournaments का overall record भी आप देख लें तो we have actually been I think doing better in T20 tournaments specifically. I think उसमें हम अगर उस पे limit कर लें तो in T20 tournaments Pakistan has been doing a lot better, and T20 में overall भी my performance has been a lot better. So even though we haven't won tournaments, the team has performed really well in the last 4 years, I think. खास तौर पे पिछले 4-5 साल से तो performance अच्छी रही है, players भी बहुत सारे आए हैं, a lot of new talent has been discovered. And sure, I mean उस sense में तो IPL कह सकती है कि they've also found a lot of good players, and probably the best T20 batsman right now, Surya Kumar Yadav, also was kind of brought in through the IPL. वही बात है कि उस लेवल का टैलेंट नहीं या उस लेवल की सक्सेस नहीं मिली, एक्सपेक्टेशंस की बात है. आई थिंक दैट्स द थिंग, लाइक वी डोंट रियली हैव दैट मेनी एक्सपेक्टेशंस, और इंडिया हैज फार मोर एक्सपेक्टेशंस इन दैट सेंस कि वहां पे यू वुड एक्सपेक्ट देम टू कंसिस्टेंटली डू एज वेल एज इंग्लैंड इज डूइंग, कि जहां पे इंग्लैंड जो है कंसिस्टेंटली वर्ल्ड कप्स जीत रहा है डिस्पाइट बीइंग अ टीम दैट वाज अंडर अचीविंग फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम. बहुत लंबा अरसा उनको लगा पहला अपना वर्ल्ड कप जीतने में. तो उस तरह से तो आई थिंक यू एक्सपेक्ट इंडिया टू बी काइंड ऑफ अप देयर इन देयर अबाउट्स, जहां पे हर दफा वो वर्ल्ड कप के आइदर ओडीआई में या T20 के फाइनल्स में पहुंच रहे हैं, एंड दे हैवंट रियली डन दैट आइदर इन द ओडीआईज और इन द in the T20s, right? If I'm not wrong, like not since the Dhoni won it. More than that, up to 10 साल ज़्यादा.
No, 2013 Champions Trophy was their last cup. And then 2014 जो World Cup हुआ था, I think Bangladesh में, that was their last final.
अच्छा. So उसके बाद से मतलब टूर्नामेंट लिए. चलो, I mean final is still not bad. You would think कि चलो ठीक है, in that sense कि you're still getting further.
Final is not bad.
Result, although of course वही बात है, team like India should be expecting to win those things at this point. Maybe even getting to finals perhaps not enough for them. बट वो बात है कि उस तरह के एक्सपेक्टेशंस वाली बात जो हम कर रहे थे कि ऑब्वियसली पाकिस्तान डज नॉट हैव दोस लेवल एक्सपेक्टेशंस. हमारे लिए ये है कि यू शुड गेट टू सेमीफाइनल्स और फाइनल्स, दैट्स एनफ. गिवन द काइंड ऑफ रिसोर्सेज दैट यू हैव, जितनी इन्वेस्टमेंट आपकी उसके अंदर की जा रही है. वही बात है कि हमारा जो मोस्ट एक्सपेंसिव प्लेयर्स भी हैं, इट्स लाइक आपके प्रोबेबली जो इंडिया के इमर्जिंग प्लेयर्स हैं वो उतने पैसे, उससे ज़्यादा पैसे ले रहे हैं मोस्ट लाइकली. तो वो उस तरह से इन टर्म्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट, तो द मनी इज जस्ट नो वे नियर कंपेरेबल. So given that, you would expect them to have far better results, but comparatively, they're getting far worse over time, which is kind of a strange phenomena that we're trying to kind of understand as well. जो हमें so far हमारी discussion रही है, and I think we've kind of covered like the whole thing. जो हमारे हिसाब से जो main points थे, we can kind of hold, kind of summarize the entire thing जो हमारे discussion हुई थी, including firstly we were saying कि जी आपका एक जो एक जनरलाइज्ड अंडरस्टैंडिंग है लोगों की कि जी आईपीएल की वजह से लोग प्लेयर्स ज़्यादा इंजर हो रहे होते हैं, या प्लेयर्स का फोकस जो है इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट पे नहीं है. दैट्स काइंड ऑफ पीपल आर, दैट्स लाइक अ मिसलीडिंग नैरेटिव, and that doesn't really apply. There are far bigger points that need to be talked about. जो हम बात कर रहे थे कि you have players firstly who are way past their prime, and clogging up teams. That should not be the case. You have players who are either established are picked up because they have big names, and they made their name in the wrong format. They might be good ODI players जिनको जो है आपने T20s के अंदर डाला हुआ है और IPL आप उनको खिला रहे हैं. You have a format जिसमें आपने ज़्यादा जो है वो इंटरनेशनल प्लेयर्स को खिलाया हुआ है और सीनियर प्लेयर्स को खिलाया हुआ है, and there's not enough space for young players to kind of break into the teams. And you furthermore have other players जहाँ पे उन्होंने कोई एक आध टूर्नामेंट खेला है, उनका हाइप बढ़ गया, उनको आपने टीम्स के अंदर डाल दिया है, and that is making the tournament overall less competitive. It's जिसकी वजह से you are not kind of inculcating the kind of perhaps new tactics and the kind of opportunities that should be given to younger players, and which is making the overall tournament less competitive, and perhaps उसकी वजह से आपकी इंटरनेशनल टीम पे उस लेवल के प्लेयर्स नहीं जा पा रहे, उस तरह की सक्सेस उसे नहीं मिल पा रही जो कि एक्चुअली उसको मिलनी चाहिए, given the kind of money that the BSCI has been investing in the IPL for so long. I think we've kind of, if there's anything I missed, please bring it up, because I think that was pretty much the summary of everything that we talked about, right?
Yeah. I think I think we should like emphasize on the fact that again, like जो production हो रही है of talent, that is way superior in PSL, considering that हर साल there's always that one or like 4 or 5 players that you can say yeah, these are the next big thing. Comparative to the IPL, which is again very much about hype, very much about क्या कहते हैं image. Like
in the last
basically
5
like if you hire some
बड़े players हैं जो आए हैं, मेरे ख्याल में अर्शदीप सिंह maybe, and then Sky perhaps. I think in the last 5 years we can say are like good players who've come through the IPL.
Yeah, again we baat hai na कि like it's also about कि I think for them the main idea is advertising. So like they want these big players to wear these IPL shirts. And to be fair, the PSL did that as well. Like when we used to like run after Chris Gale. कि हमारी टीम में इस टीम में आज, इस टीम में आज, इस टीम पे आ जाओ. That was what we were doing. We were after the advertising जो हो सकती है Chris Gale के through. But and again a lot of but I think we stopped doing that. We don't do hype-based cricket anymore on any level. Because पहले तो था कि चलो हमें AB de Villiers कहीं से ले आओ, कभी कहीं से Chris Gale ले आओ, right? But when we realized that is really compromising the quality of the cricket, because Chris Gale and AB de Villiers were just not invested in those teams as they used to, we kind of quit on that. Initially, what we also did was we were bringing in these very big names to be coaches for these teams. And बात यही थी कि हम दिखाएं कि फिफ्थ रिचर्ड जो है हमारा क्या कहते हैं कोच है, लाइक वो नेम वैल्यू आ जाए ना, एक अट्रैक्शन आती है. And we stopped doing that as well. But IPL has not stopped doing that. They are continuously bringing in players, ex-players, who do not have that acumen needed for coaching. That are being made coaches for the mere fact कि like क्या कहते हैं they are क्या कहते हैं big players. Yeah, like Wasim Akram had a job in Kolkata Knight Riders for like years, and you could ask Wasim Akram right now, and he'll tell you that he doesn't know shit about coaching. And वही बात है ना कि like it's again a lot of coaching space is also taken up because of hype. बिकॉज वो होता ही है कि जैसे ही अगर छक्का लगेगा तो अपोजिंग टीम के ना कोच की शक्ल दिखानी जरूरी होती है।
हाँ वो भी है। वो हरकत
उसके भी
हमने
पैसे हैं।
इंटरनेशनल टीम के साथ की थी, मैथ्यू हेडन का रख के, टू बी ऑनेस्ट। हमने शायद पीएसएल में नहीं की, लेकिन हमने इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट में डेफिनेटली किया, क्योंकि उसको भी एल का नहीं पता इन टर्म्स ऑफ लाइक कोचिंग, लेकिन उसको हाँ हमने रखा हुआ एज लाइक प्लेयर। क्या उसका था, ही वाजंट इवन लाइक अ कंसल्टेंट और समथिंग, आई डोंट नो व्हाट हिज टाइटल वाज, बट उसका काम से वो सब
He was designated Muslim to be.
मुस्लिम। Exactly, that was that was his title. I think on that note, I think we can end that. एक क्या कह सकते हैं, we I guess this is a good time as any to end this, and we will meet up soon to discuss our next topic, and then we will see all of you guys soon. So bye.